150 acres. It is located directly across the street. It does stretch back to the east and down to Croom Road. The existing future land use is rural conservation. The conservation areas on the site are mostly the areas around the ponds and the wetlands. And then the use is proposed, we're proposing up to 1,988 units, which is the equivalent of 3 units per acre. Next slide. So providing a little bit of background on this. So again, the reason we're here tonight is to present this to you and have a discussion. You know, this hasn't gone to public workshop yet. This hasn't gone to the Board of County Commission. The future land use map adjacent to Majestic Oaks. So Majestic Oaks and the golf course down there on the southern side is the boundary on Croom Road. Working north and back over to 41 is the US 41 corridor, which goes down to the RV park. It's on the commercial area, the split of 41 and Howell Avenue. The south, the white area there is the Brooksville city limits, which is Smokeway Farms project. Go to the next slide, please. So a little bit of background about the commercial tree operation, Stewart Tree Services. It is already a subdivided piece of property. The property back in 1997 was subdivided into 71 parcels. These parcels here are that piece in that central part of the project where most of the tree operations are ongoing. There are existing 60-foot roadways throughout the property. So if you're looking at the map here, Whitman Road, is this road right here along the southern property. And these existing right-of-ways exist throughout the Stewart Tree Services property. Next slide, please. So a little bit about Stewart's Tree Services. So it was founded in 1974. It is a commercial tree operation. The tree service does grow and sell trees to other developments, other areas, other projects around the state. I think a lot of areas in the southeast. There are 21 active wells on the property. There's an existing swift-mud permit that's approved for 115,000 gallons per day of water extraction with a peak capacity up to 225,500 gallons. So the total overview here, the southern one is specific here to the property, so that is actually Stewart Tree Services. The other one is like a graphic of a similar project. Next slide, please. So the aerial map, so I'm going to go show you, so this is the property in its existing condition. As you can see, you know, the tree operation does go further to the east than what's being proposed for development. Some of those areas that I was mentioning earlier as far as conservation land, this area here is a existing wetland. It does have some like buffers. Those are things that are going to be preserved in the project that we're proposing to you. So this here is giving you an overview, 41 on the west side, Croom Road along the south boundary, and the existing tree operation being developed here at the center of the project. Next slide. So a little bit about the project that we're proposing. So as I mentioned earlier, it's up to 3 units per acre, which is the equivalent of 1,988 units. Doesn't mean that's what's going to be developed, that's what the comp plan proposal will allow. Primary access to the project will be to US 41 with a secondary access to Croom Road. The roadway network that we're proposing or looking at within the project would be a divided collector road. So this would be something that, you know, has wide roadway, has, you know, multi-use paths, it has sidewalks, it has planted trees. You know, there is this feel of not like the normal, you know, standard collector road. This would be something that's like enhanced to like a level beyond. Total property, so out of that 746 acres, 47% of that would be developed to residential. The other 53% would be open parks, would be natural preservation, would be the buffers, would be some of the wetland conservation areas, and pastoral recreation. Some of the enhancement that would be different from this area, so going back to that piece that I was talking about between the PDD. So the PDD, you know, lets us, you know, do those enhancements, those additional things in the comp plan. So a lot of projects that you hear on down, you know, we'll talk about 15-foot buffers, you know, 80% opacity in 3 years, or a tree every 30 feet. What's different about this project, we're proposing a 75-foot buffer. So a 75 buffer would have multiple layers of planting, and this would be something that would be 80% opaque in the first year, most likely 100% opaque by 3 years. So this is, again, almost 4 or 5 times larger than a lot of the buffers that you would see in other areas of the county. Remember I highlighted earlier on the well, so there's a lot of permitted wells. You know, there's a ton of water being drawn on the ground to support irrigation systems of the tree operation. Right now, we're proposing to connect to central water and sewer. I think a lot of people know there is no water and sewer out in this area, so water and sewer would have to be run down 41 and connected to the main utility lines at Yonch Road, which is the city supply, and then the other supplies down past Brooks Elementary. So it is an extensive undertaking that would be taken by the developer, but this would be, you know, almost 8,000 feet of water and sewer lines that we ran that would support this area for a connection to central water and sewer. There's a community farm aspect that we're going to be talking about here in a second on the next slide. So a lot of projects have, you know, a central amenity. A lot of times those are like a small playground, like 1 acre, half an acre, and that serves as a residential amenity center, you know, for the neighborhood to use. So this piece here is much different. So we're talking about a community farm, and we're trying to size that appropriately and figure out what exactly that means for this project. You know, is that 2 acres, 3 acres, 5 acres? But the community farm aspect is called an aggregate. So what it would be is a place where, you know, events could be taken, wedding venues, farmers markets, open shops, but that would be either a commercial run or a community run operation. So again, to a much higher level than what you would see in a normal amenity center, this would be something that, you know, would be supported by the community and a place that people within the community could go. But not only here, since it's not all private roads, it would be public roads that people within the area surrounding this could also gather or participate in. Another part of the community would be the extensive trail network. So this central amenity would be somewhere located, such as in a project, but there'd be a lot of pocket parks done within the community. So the smaller parks I was talking about a minute ago, where there might be a passive recreation area, a trail, a walkway, a playground, these could be spotted throughout the community, and the trail network would then connect all these to that central amenity. So people living in the community, living in a residential pod, would then have access to other areas of the property. This area, you know, one of the big things that we always talk about is light pollution. So, you know, when a new project comes in, especially in an area like this, it's doesn't have a lot of overhead lights. You know, how do you prevent light pollution? So Dark Sky is a project, and they have a couple communities like around the state. One of the big ones was adoption over in Groveland. So they adopted Dark Sky compliant light fixtures. So what Dark Sky does, as part of their commitment, if you commit to using their light fixtures, you know, they really focus on reducing light pollution, and that's through like different levels of UV lighting, different levels of low lighting, you know, overhead, upward facing lighting. So all your light sprays are then focused down on like low areas and walkways, you know, a lot of like low litany lighting, less overhead street lighting. So again, to reduce light pollution so you're not, you know, obstructing your view as a neighbor. Next slide, please. So the proposed projects is I'm going to highlight here the area of development. So then again, that divided collector road is the road I was talking about. Secondary connection to Croom, primary connection to US 41. The areas in yellow would be the residential density areas. So those are the areas where the residential pods would be proposed. The areas in green and dash areas would be the areas that are being preserved or planned as recreation or passive recreation or open space. And then surrounding the property, you can see that, you know, the thicker dense lines, a lot of those areas would be the proposed buffer. So it would be a 75-foot buffer surrounding the edges against other residential areas, and then the internal pods would be the residential. So again, earlier I mentioned that these documents were available to you. They're on that link to that QR code. You're able to download this PDF. This graphic is also in that packet. But then to highlight again that last part about acreage, so over 50% of you can preserve the open green space buffer for natural preservation. Next slide, please. So going back to that aggregate or the aggregate community, so there's a lot of information right now in the public. The Urban Land Institute published a full document I produced a link to some of the best practices of running an agri-hood. It's in that packet that you were able to download from the QR code. But some of the differences here, are, what are some things, again, like I highlighted, community farms serve as a central gathering place, for the community. So it's not like just a playground, it is something that the community can have and hold and then use as a social network. By clustering homes, so by clustering in the pods, like I showed on the last graphic, in the residential, so the areas where the homes would be focused, would be separated by these green areas or by these like preserved areas, and then you'd have access ultimately to the main community within the project. And then sort of a few pictures just kind of highlighting some of the piece. A lot of the central amenities, isn't just like a large clubhouse, like one clubhouse has 20,000 square feet. They do a lot of smaller buildings, that are very specific to like the central place. So there might be, a small farmer's market, there might be a small area for a grow operation, there might be, an area for like a social barn, there might be an area just for like an outdoor gathering or just like, event space. But the aggregate, if you look at that document, it's pretty extensive. I mean, there's projects all over the state of Florida right now that are popping up, adopting this different style of development. Because I think, people have made it clear what they want to see. They want to see something different. They don't want to see the same thing. They don't want to see the Florida Max development they might see in some other areas of the county or some other areas of the state. Areas like this are special. They deserve to be treated different than some other areas. So, we do look for your feedback, and that's one of the things that with the presentation tonight, we're looking to get constructive criticism. We're looking to find things that we can adopt and put into the plan and present, that is different. We can't govern with a no. So when you're sitting here and you provide your feedback, it lets us take it and show people that we're listening. So, next page. We will open up to questions now. As Cliff mentioned earlier, both of us are here that we can answer questions either in the presentation or the piece, but we will